Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Mystery School Hour with your show host, Ortrun Franklin, on the Star Nations Radio Network.
Hello, everyone. This is Ortrun Franklin. I'm your host for the Mystery School Hour, and it's really a pleasure to be back with you again. My goodness, it's been 2 months. I wasn't on last month. I had my dog Oscar. He made his transition, and it was a hard evening for me, so I couldn't be on. And so Nessie was willing to take over for me. But now, I'm back, and it's a new year, and we're going to have wonderful things happening for us in this new year. Because it is the new year, one of the things that I thought it might be fun to delve into is dreams. And now, why dreams? Why dreams coming into this new year? Well, this time of year, we are setting goals. Maybe we've already set goals. Maybe we've already broken goals. And but maybe we're really good at sticking to what it is we're saying we're going to be doing. But one of the ways to achieve goals is through dreaming. And, hi, Dana. I think Dana's on. This is hi, everyone. It's Dana. Good. And Todd's on, too. Wonderful. And Mary Ellen. Hi, everyone. So this is a good time to think about dreams, and because dreams are really such a big part of us. When you think about it, a typical individual works of the time in that 24-hour cycle, and we actually sleep about a third of that time. So during that time that we're sleeping, why not? Why not use it for something that can be quite productive? We're all familiar with dreams, and probably most of us have even dabbled in dreams. And I found out the different types of dreams. But I'm going to delve into some of these this evening. But I want to just say that dreams and interpretation of dreams and actually following dreams, that goes back to the Egyptian times. It goes back to the times of the Greek. And when someone came into the mystery school, there are certain talents that they already had, and them coming into the mystery schools, the masters had already recognized that they have certain talents. And some had talent with like scrying, and some had talent with being extremely psychic in other ways, and others also were the ones that were the dreamers. So there are individuals that have more ability in the dream state than others, but that doesn't mean that we can't learn to utilize and learn to create in our dreams, because that's what they're there for. They're there for us to overcome, to learn, to grow, all kinds of different avenues and venues where dreams can be used. And dreams are such a big part of us, and most of us, like I said, are extremely familiar with the different types of dreams. And how many of you have sat in school? I bet you Todd had. Todd sat in school and he was off daydreaming somewhere, thinking about faraway places and of what he would like to do. And those are really beautiful, beautiful things. And if we put intention, and we can create with that. We can create by putting intention into our dreams. Now, because in the dream state, there are the conscious dreams, and that's basically what a daydream is you're in a conscious state. But what you're already doing in a daydream is you're starting to drift a little bit into the alpha state. And the alpha state is the Carl can explain it a little better, is the state where you're starting to drift off into sleep. So, and this is what I always consider the best state to be in, because that's where you have that connection between not only your conscious mind, but you're starting to connect with that subconscious mind, and that's where meditation can begin to happen. And I always say that meditation is a way of life. And the goal is to get to that space where you have that connection, and daydreaming can be considered to have that connection, because the alpha state is when the meditative state occurs. But if we are in too deep of a meditative state, then we can't function in the outer world. But if we just are drifted off a slight amount into the alpha state, there's that connection, and we can create. And in that space, you can create because whatever it is that you project, whether it's a thought, an affirmation, or what it is that you project that particular time, your subconscious mind will hear it 100 to 200 times. Or if you were saying it in the conscious state, it would only hear it once. So you can create, you can put thoughts into your subconscious mind, so that the subconscious mind then also projects it then out into the universe, where the universe will then start creating what it is that you truly, desire. So daydreams are a really, really wonderful thing, even though I remember in school, and the boys would be off doing that. Girls sometimes too, of course, but, and the sisters, the nuns, they would come and just give them a little smack on the back of their head. They didn't like them there, yeah, but it's a good space to be. So there are many other types of dreams, and some are actually dreams where you think you are awake, and these are called false awakening dreams. And these are where you feel that you're awake, and you're going through your motions, you're going through your daily routine, and all of a sudden you actually truly do wake up, and all the while that you thought you were doing and carrying on your daily routine, you were actually in that sleep state. And this occurs for us. Have you ever thought about the times where you wake up and you think of something and you think, did I dream that, or did this really happen? Well, of course it really happened if it was in a dream state too, but you wonder, did I really do this in this conscious mind, or is this something that went on while I was visiting some other space? So that's more of that false awakening dreams, where you think that you have done something, but yet to find out that you really weren't in that awake state, that you were off somewhere else actually, and learning and creating. The lucid dreams are wonderful because you are participating in these dreams. So the dreamer knows that they are part of this. So what they do, though, is they wake themselves up, and some others, they've acquired that skill to actively participate and allow themselves to influence the direction of the outcome of a dream when they're in lucid dreaming. And again, because you're in that state, that alpha state, it's as though you are in that meditative state. And then you can place intention, and it's almost like speaking back and forth, communicating with your higher essences, with your guides, your masters, and creating and allowing things to come forth in your life. Now, of course, there's always those types of dreams that are not necessarily, or don't necessarily seem positive. And, of course, one of those is the nightmares. The nightmares can be extremely frightening. They can be wake us up, because we're anxious. But we have nightmares to alert us to pay attention. There's something that is around us. It can be something that's going on within you, that there is something that you yourself, some kind of fear or something within you that you need to acknowledge, some kind of a life situation or something kind of maybe a life trauma that's going on. But also nightmares, you can tune into other individuals' nightmares. When you're in that sleep state or in that dream state, it might not even be your dream. It might not necessarily even be what it is that you're experiencing. You're assisting someone else in their dream. And so it's a very interesting thing what it is that we actually experience when we are dreaming. It may be about ourselves, but it may also have to do with someone else because someone else is walking into your dream. They come and they visit you, and there's this play going on right in front, right in your mind, in your unconscious mind, but it's not necessarily even you. And so what do you do about that? Either form, focus in on it. And if you can, grasp whether this is actually your dream because you can relate to it. If it's something that's going on in your life, for instance, maybe there's some kind of a illness that someone in your family is having, or maybe there's a death process going on. So, or you yourself are having some relationship issues, then you know it's related to you. If you don't have those things going on around you, it can be that it's a sign that something is going to be coming up, or it can be that you're actually tuning into someone else's dream, and they have come into your dream so that you can be of help to them. And so in that dream, you can assist them by allowing them to see what it is that you would do in a circumstance like that. Or, if nothing else, know that they have come into your dream so that you can send them light and love, so that what they're experiencing can be transmuted so that they can then go on their way. I don't know how many people have ever experienced that, but I know that I have on occasion. And, well, not even just on occasion, it happens often. And when someone comes into your dream, and someone you may know, or it's someone you may not know, but you don't know, you can't quite understand why they're there, I have come to learn that they are there for my help. They're there for me to assist them, and the best way that I can be of assistance to someone is by sending them that divine radiant light and love. If I don't know exactly what the situation is about, always that divine light and love and sending the transmutation light and love, that will alter the outcome. Now, there are also other dreams that we have, and they are recurring dreams. Recurring dreams, they happen over and over and over and over again. Now, probably most of us have experienced dreams where we have felt that we've been falling. And it's something that maybe comes and goes. Every so often it will come into your dreams, and you don't quite know what it is and why it is that you have that dream, but somehow it continues on. It can be months, it can be years. These kind of dreams can go on. And what it is, it's there to find resolution. And usually if you're falling, what that means is that you feel that you are losing control. So you need to find a way of bringing control back into your life. Now, if that's not something that's going on in your life, again, it might be that there's someone else that you're actually supposed to be assisting during that dream state in which you're in. And we can have dreams that tell us about our health. It can be signals saying that there's something coming up within you physically, something going wrong, or it can be someone that's close to you. But be aware that when someone is in your dream, that first and foremost the dream relates to you. Now, if you look at that dream and you recognize that, no, there's really nothing going on here with me, then look at that individual and see what that individual means to you, because sometimes what that can mean is that individual is a representation of a part of you. Or what does that individual that's in that dream actually represent? And it might represent that aspect of you. So this is another way that you can start interpreting and start recognizing what these individuals are there for. It can be individuals, it can be symbologies, it can be animal totems. There's such a variety. It can be numbers. It all depends on how it is that you can be related to. Now, if you are very much into symbology, dreams very often will come to you in symbols, and then you can because you're in understanding of symbology, you can look at the symbologies that are there, and it's like a puzzle that's being undone for you. And I remember one time, many years ago, I had a dream, and I really couldn't figure out what it was about. And if you want to go back and interpret the dream, go back and get into the meditative state, because you're then in that brainwave pattern that's similar, and then start asking the questions in that, and ask for guidance from your divine ones, so that you can get the answers. And I remember going back into that dream, and there were all kinds of numbers involved in it, and it was like my path. It was actually telling me this step and this step and this step and this step will lead me to higher consciousness, let's say. But it was that kind of a series of numbers that were plotted here and there. It was really had to do with my daughter being in choir, and these individuals and so on. They were representing different things to me, and there were numbers related to it. And it had this whole story. And by going through the series and recognizing what numbers were associated there, I was able to untangle the symbology of that through numbers. So it depends on what it is that a way that the subconscious can communicate with you. If you've studied animal totems, that might be a way that you'll be communicated with. If you've, like I said, if it's symbols, it can represent that. If it's individuals that are in your dreams, as I mentioned, first don't automatically think it's about that individual. See what that individual actually represents. Maybe the mother, if your mother is there, she might represent you being the nurturing part of yourself, something of that nature. So there are various ways of interpreting and recognizing what your dreams are about. Very often we have prophetic dreams, and we have these dreams that seem to be telling us something about the future, or something that's coming up within our families. And again, be aware always to any dream that you have. First of all, see if it doesn't relate to you before you go out and tell someone else. I know people have done that with me over the years. They'll say, I dreamt about you, and I saw you at the top of the staircase, and I saw you falling down the staircase. They called me to alert me that this was something that, I better be careful, and so that I wouldn't actually experience that. Well, that's fine, and it didn't happen, of course. Maybe her just calling me and telling me that was enough to divert something of that nature, but before you call someone and tell them something of that nature, check it out within yourself and see if that doesn't actually represent you in some way. Maybe a part of you, you're like an emotional part of you possibly that looks like it's ready to start stumbling and falling before you call that individual. But yet, if it still doesn't indicate it might be you, then yes, go ahead, do that. It's of great service. I mean, if they are willing to and open to listen to you with that. Now, there are what's called epic dreams, and epic dreams or cosmic dreams, and these are things that where you, and I mentioned it a little bit already, learning about yourself, but these are ones that can become very, very vivid and very, very alive, and where you are actually projecting further than the normal everyday setting, and you're projecting into the universe and into all of creation. Basically, it can go that far, and these are dreams that are telling you about, again, your journey. What it is that you are here to your purpose here upon the planet, and what it is that you are meant to share with the world, and where you came from. These are stories that can tell you this is where you're from, and those masters and those guides that are working with you, they can come to you and actually lay out not only what's happening for you here on this earth plane, but what is actually happening on the different levels that you have part of your aspect left at. When you came down here to this earth plane, you did a step-down process, and there are parts of you that you left in different levels of awareness and consciousness or dimensions. And so these prophetic dreams, these epic dreams, they tend to move into that aspect of yourself where they allow you to communicate still with the ones you were associated with and that are still a part of you, because certainly everything is, a part of you. And mutual dreams are an interesting thing. These are dreams that occur usually with someone that is close to another person. And, for instance, one of the easiest examples of that would be that, let's just say that there's someone in your family that has passed away. And so then you and maybe it's your sister or your brother or so on, you all go to sleep and you speak with each other the next day, and you had the same exact dream. Or it was close enough that it would be the exact dream. Well, mutual dreams occur if you're quite close to individuals. And so because you are so close and so close in the same energy pattern, and it has to do something with someone or something that you are related with, you can tune into that same exact dream and get that same exact message. Now, I have to say what's interesting is thinking about that. I remember years ago when we were first in Coptics, and Carl, he got this message, and this was in his dream, that he and, John, that they put out a letter to all these different light groups that there be a world peace prayer. And because John did have many different sources and many different lists, that's exactly what they did. But the thing is that Carl dreamt that, and he called John Davis, and he said, I dreamt this dream. And John said, I just had that dream too. So this was a mutual dream, and because they had a similar purpose, they had the same goals in mind, they then ended up having a mutual dream, and they acted on that. So you can create when you have these mutual dreams, and there's, of course, always more power when there's more than one individual that's involved in putting energy into that. So here, this was someone that wasn't even in the family, but they were associated in the same group with the same thought. And so this letter about world peace and projecting world peace and gathering all these different light groups together, Carl and John did this back in the late 70s. So, and this has become a big thing, and many have these world prayers, the peace prayers at the end of the year and so on. But here, this is something John and Carl had done so many years ago. Pardon?
Before the computer. So
yes, that was way before the computer, yes. So these letters were individually sent out. So that would be a mutual dream. So, okay, I think I've talked quite a bit now. So I'm going to, I'd like to open it up, actually, and I'd like to have some thoughts and maybe some comments and some questions if anyone has one. So, but while I'm waiting, oh, okay, Carl says he has some. So here's Carl for you.
We experience life on different levels. And while we're awake, we're experiencing in the physical world, we're working out of primarily our logical and our emotional minds. But in the sleep state, it's, in one hand, it's a different world, and there are different rules, and the physics, if you will, are different. In the physical world, with our physical body, we can only be in one place at one time, and if we want to go someplace else, it takes effort and it takes time. But in the dream state, we can be in one place one moment and a totally different place the next moment. We can move place to place instantaneously. And we also can move from lower levels to higher levels of consciousness independently or instantly, and going to different levels, different dimensions, and we usually can't do that. In our awake state, we would have to get into a meditative state in order to do that. So in our sleep state, we have a lot more freedom. Our movements can be very diverse. We're not restricted to just being on the planet. We can literally be any place in the solar system, the galaxy, the universe, and even beyond. So our experience can span literally all of creation, and we can learn things in the dream state that we can't learn in the awake state because of the physical limitations that we have of being restricted to a physical body. But in the dream state, all of these restrictions don't exist.
Thank you, Carl. Okay, I think here's a question, I think it's from Dana. And she's saying, Ortrun, do you believe that loved ones have crossed over, come to us through our dreams? I definitely believe that they do. I believe that they are in communication with us, and if we are open to receiving their communication, that they will guide us, they will assist us, they will let us know how they are doing. I remember so many years ago when my mother passed away, and it really actually took 6 months before I heard from her. But my mother, she had a lot of physical issues. Our lives were not easy, so she had lots of arthritis and so on, and she had lots of pain in her life. And one evening, it was through the night, and I'd wanted to connect with her, but I didn't really know how to actually do that very well. So, but one night and it just meant so much to me because she came to me, and my mother and I always spoke German together, so this is so interesting. She said to me, Ortrun, in her German voice, and I said, oh, no, I want to tell you before this. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay, what I was dreaming was I was trying to get a hold of my mother, and I was dialing this phone number. This is when we had the rotary dial phones. So I was dialing the phone number, and I was trying to get through to her, and I couldn't get through to her, And at one point, my daughter, she came in, and I said, Angie, I said, I've got to call Mutti. Mutti means mommy. I said, I'm trying to get a hold of Mutti, and I've got to hang up. And so then, again, this phone thing went on with the dialing and so on, and it seemed like the phone was just spiraling upward. And then all of a sudden, she breaks through, this voice breaks through, and she says, Ortrun? And I said, Mutti? And she said, yes. And she started speaking to me in English, which I thought was very interesting because, as I said, we always spoke to each other in German. And I said to her, and I just said to her, Mutti, I said, have you finally gotten rid of your pain? She says, yes, I have finally gotten rid of my pain. And that's all she said. And it was just like the most amazing experience. And that the feeling that I had, that overwhelming experience that I had, from that, I carried it through the whole day, and I remember telling people about it, and they said, sure, okay. They didn't quite understand it. Certainly, you hear, those that are listening in would understand that. But in most dreams, they don't speak to you verbally. I mean, some do. I'm not saying that they don't speak to you verbally, but usually it's symbolically. That's the last thing that they use usually is the verbiage. Because the subconscious mind doesn't. That's the last thing it works with is words, right, Carl?
Yes.
And so, what are the other ways? There's
Well, with our logical mind, the primary language is our words, and the secondary language are emotion. With the subconscious mind, the primary language is visualization. Dreams are always visual, which tells us that is the primary language of the subconscious. The secondary language is the emotion. And the third language, the least used, are words. So, and that's why dreams are, when things are visual, they are often symbolic. And the subconscious mind is not a logical mind. It deals in symbology and visualization, which is why our logical conscious mind, which deals primarily with verbiage, it's difficulty figuring out what a dream means, because it is not in the language that it's accustomed to working with.
This is another experience I had, and you speak about not necessarily even loved ones that come to you in their dreams, but this young man, he worked for my husband at the time. This was years ago, not Carl, my other husband, and he passed away. He was driving his Jeep, and he flipped his Jeep, and he passed away. This is really early on into metaphysics for me. This is not when I was really already delved into it so deeply. And in my dream, he came to me in my dream, and he was up on top of a mountain, and I knew that he was safe. I knew that he had completed his transition. I just knew that he was in such a good space, and that's also honored that he would actually come and visit me in that way. And so there are many that come to visit you just to let you know that, hey, we're fine, we're in a great place. And then there are others that will come to you that have not completed their transition. They didn't complete it. They're stuck. That can happen also. And Carl and I work a lot with that also. So they will come to you in a dream state, and of course, if that's the case, they're there for help. And I mentioned that a little bit earlier. They're there for you to help assist them. They're there for you to guide them to the light, because they are trusting of you. They know that this is something that you can do, and they have enough trust and faith in you that they know that you can be the one that can help them to complete their journey. So, yes, and I think Dana is saying a lot of people have dreams of their loved ones and discount them as coincidence, and that's exactly true. That is absolutely so. We have more and more dreams, I think, of loved ones than we ever realize. Carl has something else.
Yeah, two things. If in your dream a loved one comes and you sense that they're seeking help, please ask that their loved ones come from the heavenly plane and be with them. And also ask that the angels of transition come and be with them. And then ask the loved ones and the angels of transition to lead them, to guide them, to encourage them, to empower them, to go with them, so that when they get to, it's a tunnel of light that's the entrance to heaven. And when they get to the tunnel of light, they're going to feel so extraordinarily peaceful and so loved and so at one with all of creation that they will rush into the tunnel. And when they exit the tunnel, they're going to be at the appropriate place in the heavenly realm, and they're going to be with loved ones. The other thing that I should have said, in order to interpret a dream after you're awake, it can be extremely helpful if you go back into the alpha state, which is a meditative state, and ask questions. What does this mean? What does that mean? What is the meaning of the dream? What was the message for me here? So you need to, if it came from the subconscious needs to be involved in the in interpreting it so that it's understandable.
And yes, and this is why I mentioned that things will come to you in dreams that in the way that are meaningful to you, but as Carl mentioned, need to be interpreted in the alpha state, such as symbologies, and as I mentioned, that particular dream that I had with the numbers, and so it's a very interesting process, and if you're interested in doing that, it's well worth pursuing, because as I mentioned, dreams are there for you to learn, to grow, to resolve from. There are incubation dreams. I don't know if you've ever heard of incubation dreams. And again, these are dreams that actually go back. That's what they were called back in the ancient Egyptian days and the Greek days. They usually took place in a sacred temple. And with that being said, it's a good thing for us to fill ourselves with divine, radiant light and love before we go to sleep at night and before we wake up in the morning. We always say make sure to say some kind of meditative prayer, because you don't really know where you're going to be going in that sleep state. But in the Egyptian times and the ancient Greek times, what they had you do was they would have you go into a sacred temple. And in that sacred temple then is where they would have you direct a dream. And because it could be one that was for some kind of, even back then, those individuals, even in mystery schools, had issues that they needed to deal with. It could be done, problem solving could be done, or if you really loved to travel, you could experience going into that astral travel pattern, or you could have deal with anything that you wanted to deal with. But because if you feed what it is that you want to experience in your dream, you will get a resolution. You know, you've heard that expression, dream on it, sleep on it, dream on it, because it is in that subconscious mind. That subconscious mind knows so much more about you than you actually know in your conscious mind. So by leading that dream into what it is that you want to resolve is a really a beautiful thing to do. But again, as I mentioned, protect yourself, because you don't know where you could be taking yourself. And if you fill yourself with divine radiant light and love before you go to sleep, because that the church fathers, they always told us to pray in the morning and pray at night. And I really believe this is what they meant: protect yourself, so that you are actually going to a space that is safe for you. Because if you don't, there's all kinds of craziness out there. So fill yourself with that divine radiant light and love before you go to sleep, and then state your intention. I would like to resolve, maybe it's something work-wise, or maybe it's something in a relationship, or maybe it's as I mentioned, it's something where you'd like to do some astral traveling, because it's something you like to do. You like to travel, but you can't really afford to do it in the physical world, so enjoy it while you're in that sleep state. But so you're encapsulating this dream that you want to focus your attention on, and then you can experience, and you can, like I said, resolve. If it happens to be maybe a relationship problem, you can try out different variations of how to speak with that your spouse or your mate, or to see how it is that it would go better, so that when you are then in the awake state, in the conscious state, then you can approach your loved one or the one that you're having an issue with in a better manner. Now, how many people have, oh my gosh, I remember when I was working in systems so many years ago, I would dream my work day and night, because I was always problem solving. And you can overdream also, so make certain that you have your guides monitor how much you're doing, because if you're constantly dreaming and never sleeping, that's not a good thing either. Carl, you have something to say?
No.
Oh, I thought you did.
I was just wondering if you have had any dreams that have been significant to you, or dreams where you have not been able to ascertain the meaning behind it, you might want to share or ask about.
I think that's a good thought. I'd like to have someone share their dreams with us, because I'm sure that some of you out there have had some really amazing dreams. I can just imagine. So, but in the meantime, while we're waiting for some of these beautiful thoughts, I want to go back to nightmares. I remember one time that we got this call. I mean, it was really a desperate call, and it was about this child. She was 10 years old, and she had the most horrible nightmare ever, and I'm not even going to go into the description of how it was really, it was just very, very vivid. And she woke up and she was just crying, and they could not, comfort her and so on, so they finally called us. And what we realized was that this child was tapping into a sacred land. And there had been some, wars on that land, unfortunately. And this child was actually seeing the ones that were injured in that area. So these are the kinds of things that can also happen to us when we are dreaming, is that we can tap into where we are at. For instance, if you're traveling and, you're staying in a motel, the remnants that were left over in that area, you can tap into those in the dream state. And again, that's why it's so important that you protect yourself, so that if something like that does come to you, that you're able to work with it, more reasonably, and not be caught up into the drama of it and the fear of it. So anyhow, but this child, I mean, she was like totally devastated. She was screaming, carrying on, and so on and so on. And like I said, these parents called us, and because we knew that the ones that she was seeing, they were ones that had not completed their transition. And so we started working on these ones that had died in this space that she was tuning into, and we moved them on, and we cleared out the area, and then, of course, a filter with that divine radiant light and love also, and she became much more peaceful, and she then was able, to go back to sleep, and she didn't have any more difficulties. Also, what we recognized is that, she is a source. This is something that she has the ability to tune in. She has the ability to tune into ones that haven't completed that transition, and see the ones that are beyond, our world, our third dimensional world. So this is something that, as a child, it was very, very horrible and horrific for her. But as she grows up and is willing, if she's willing to develop the gift that she has, she can be of great service, to others. So, and I'm sure that there are individuals that have children that this occurs with. And because children are so open and receptive, and they're not yet at that stage where they block themselves off, they're so much more tuned in to the outer world that these kinds of things can come to them. And so as parents, if you have your child, wake up with a nightmare, of course, do what you can, cuddle them and give them love and see whatever might be going on within them, send that light and love and move that energy vibration away from them, and that particular ones that can be of service. For us, I would say the angels of transition, or you can call in Michael the Archangel, or angels of protection, or whoever it is that you feel that you need to call in, and have them remove that situation from that child. And the sooner, the better that you teach your children to keep themselves protected. And you as a parent, maybe, that's why you say night prayers. That's why I think they told us, say your prayers at night. That's how we teach our children night prayers. See them filled, have them learn to fill themselves with that divine light and love, that protective guidance that is around them. And then the nightmares will go. They'll start drifting away. They will start leaving, and they'll experience less and less of them. And then as they grow up and become more of an adult and are able to understand more what is going on, if they choose then to work in that arena, that is a really wonderful thing. If that's what, as I mentioned, if that's what they choose to do. Okay, Carl, you again have another comment?
During our awake time, we are just flooded and sometimes even overwhelmed with all of the sensations that are coming in through our five senses. And that locks us very much into this physical world. When we fall asleep, those five senses are not functioning. And that allows us to move literally into a higher aspect or a different aspect of not only the world but of creation. Now, in dreaming, that's how we experience these other levels, places, dimensions. And some of the dreams are related to what is happening to us here and now in the physical. But many of the dreams are related to our relationships with loved ones on the other side, to past lives, or to dimensions that we were in prior to lowering our vibration to come here to be in physical form. And so we're dealing with the spirit realm more in our dream state than we virtually ever are in our awake state. And it allows us then to literally live in the two worlds, the physical world and the non-physical world, or the non-physical reality. So that helps us maintain our balance, so that when we reach the point when we're going to vacate our physical body and move 100% of our time into the spirit world, we're going to be relatively comfortable going there, because we've been visiting it many, many nights during our dream time.
So that's exciting, isn't it? I think it is. I think, Carl, I think that you're right. I think the more that we visit, those other levels of awareness and consciousness, our dreams, the more and more that we are going to be able to move into those levels, when it is our time to move to those other dimensions. Carl mentioned that that's very much a spiritual state, and it is. And so oftentimes the dreams that we have, and I'm going to say 100% of the times they're very spiritual, because, of course, I feel everything is spiritual. So that when someone has a dream about death, oftentimes if you are unaware of the significance of death, you might think, I've heard people say that, oh, boy, I thank God I woke up before, or because if I had died, I probably would have died. Well, that's, of course, not true. It could happen, I suppose, but the thing is that more than likely it's representative of that death, a death that has occurred within you. It's showing that there's been something you've been working on for a long time, and it was time that you finally reached that level where that you no longer needed this part of you, and it dies away. And so then you're not able to move up into that next level of awareness and consciousness, that next level of that spiral that you are walking on. Since you are, of course, walking your pathway to higher ascension, that's what you're really doing, no matter what you think your purpose is here. That's your main purpose, is to walk this spiral of higher ascension. And while you're doing that, of course, you're doing great work. And for instance, when snakes appear in your dream, well, many people are afraid of them. And if you're afraid of them, more than likely it is because you're needing to work with the fear of overcoming that phobia that you have. But if snakes appear in your dream if you're thinking of that in a spiritual manner, certainly, that has to do, with the jet, with the Kundalini energy, and again, it has to do with spiritual progression. So, in nakedness, it can be a positive or a negative thing. If you see yourself naked in a dream, it can be that you feel that you're being violated if you're looking at the negative. But on a spiritual level, the nakedness is that you have let go of all of your outer garb, and you are allowing yourself to show the inner self, that nakedness of yourself. So, there are different interpretations depending on where you're at. And if you're dreaming about flying, when you're flying, that always speaks about freedom. So, so there are many different interpretations you can give to a dream depending on where it is that you are in your thought pattern. But if you're interested in learning about your dreams, it's really important to keep that dream journal, because when you wake up in the morning, about 10 minutes after you've woken up, you've lost most of the dream. So it's extremely important that if this is something that you're interested in doing and to learning from, is to have that some kind of tablet or something at your bed so that you can wake up and right away write down what it is that you remember. I'm sometimes very, very amazed at how well some people can remember their dreams. And I think that's a gift, that when they can actually remember the depth of their dreams. Most of the time, individuals lose most of it within the first 10 minutes after their sleep, and they're in the conscious mind. So make certain that you do keep some kind of a tablet with you if that's what you're interested in doing. Going back to the mystery schools, the initiates, they would be given a master or a priest or a priestess that would be working with them. And some of those masters or teachers or like I said, the priests or priestesses, they would specifically be the ones that dealt with dreams. And some of the practices that they had with them is that, okay, now this is the evening you're going to be going into, as I mentioned, that sacred temple, and we want you to specifically be able to remember, in the morning what it is that you dreamt. Now, because the high priest or the priest was wise enough, they knew what they were dreaming. So when the initiate would wake up and they would relate their dream to the teacher, she would know whether this is actually what they had dreamt. And this is how they would rate them, and that's how they would see where they were in their growth and their level of awareness and consciousness. And this is also how they decided which of the gifts were going to be nurtured in an individual, because some of them their gifts were that they were the dreamers, and some of them were, as I mentioned, they were the psychics, and so it was all these clairs that they were developing with these students in the mystery schools. So it was these are all things that we do now here in the outer world, and we are walking our own mystery school in our outer world, and we learn about many different things, but there are some things that we really are able to hone into that are ours. And some of these students, they had the ability to really hone in on the dreaming. And then they, too, were able to teach others, how to actually learn to do that for themselves. Okay, are there any other thoughts? Anything else, Carl? No? Okay. Well, let's see. Okay. Well, I'm going to just tell you a few symbologies then. In the ancient Egyptian times with the different animal totems. And so, and because that's the arena that I come out of, is the mystery schools in Egypt and so on, that always, fascinates me. As we mentioned earlier, if you're having a flying dream, it always represents the higher levels of awareness, or the spirit realm, but if you're dreaming about the higher realms, you can dream about like Nut, who was the goddess of the sky, and so on. So individuals of that sort would come into your dreams. Now, talking about death, if you were a student of the mystery schools, the Egyptian mystery schools, you might see Anubis, or the dog, the jackal, and that would be a representation of that death dream, and the one that who would be the judge, because there was that the death. When death happened, of course, was always resurrection that followed. But in the ancient Egyptian times, the heart of the dead was put on a scale, and then there was a feather placed on the other scale. And then if they were equal, and that meant that their heart was pure, and that they had accomplished what it was that they needed to accomplish. If not, then there was more to learn. And so death occurred, but yes, there was even more in that particular arena or area that needed to be focused on. And then it would be checked again when there was no death that occurred within them. And they would then come to that point when the heart and the feather were equal. That is when they had actually resolved and learned all that they needed to learn, so that they could then go on to the and stay what they called the underworld, which I call the inner world, which also I consider the heavens. But there are, the cats can come into your dream, and what the cats represent to you. They are, the protectors or the defenders. There's, Sekhmet, there's Bastet, all these goddesses and so on. They can come into you. Cats, they also can represent fertility, or childbirth, or offspring. So depending on your dream, that's again where the puzzle is where you are in your life, what is occurring in your life, and what the symbology of that particular dream might mean. And the same thing, if there was a cow in your dream, the cow would certainly represent fertility, maybe, and it can be positive or negative. It can be, that you're having issues with fertility, or not. You are really fertile and you're ready to have a child and come into your awareness and consciousness. So it's very, very interesting to see what the symbologies, would be. And then, or if you've got flying, the eagles, when the eagle soars up in the sky, that's, you are so connected. That's when the eagle is flying in your dreams, it means that you are so far up in your level of connection in that particular dream that it's your many masters and guides and all those that are working with, they're all part of you there, and they're all communicating beautifully with you. And you sense that beauty of the dream. Or flowers. Flowers are really a beautiful thing to have in dreams, because those always represent beauty and love and joy and peace. So, yes, I really encourage you to look at your dreams and have fun with them and learn from them and grow with them, because they are such a large part of you. As I mentioned, we are sleeping 1/3 of that 24-hour cycle. That's our sleep time, and we have many dreams that are nighttime. And some people, they say they don't dream, but we all dream. And if you choose to know about your dreams, ask as you're going to sleep at night, and ask that you be given and remember the dreams that you are having, okay? And as I mentioned, if you want to resolve something, a situation in your life, when you're going into that sleep state, say, okay, in my dreams this evening, I would like to resolve this, whatever it is, this issue, or I would like to problem solve something that's going on with, the job that I'm doing. As I mentioned when I was a systems analyst, is to resolve, where I needed to go with my my program, my coding, as we called it back then. Okay, Carl has one other thought.
One of the things that I try to remember to do as I'm falling asleep is I will ask my spirit family and my soul to please take charge of what I experience during my sleep time, and that is for my highest good come to me, or I'm allowed to experience that is for my highest good. That way, they don't sleep. They're in control. They're functioning at a higher level than my conscious mind is, and I feel it can make my dream time more beneficial, more productive.
Okay, I think that we've run out of time, so I just want to thank every one of you for having joined here with Carl and I for this part of our shows. And so please stay, and Carl's show will be coming on, the Spirit Realm and Ascension. And so again, thank you everyone for being part of this, even with me this evening.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the Mystery School Hour with your show host, Ortrun Franklin, on the Star Nations Radio Network.